Hello and welcome and good morning everybody to Theory of Anything episode 39 morning episode. We forgot why we didn't do it at mornings anymore, so we're doing it at mornings again.
Please sir, I've remembered.
Okay.
It's not good.
A special early morning edition, yeah.
Exactly.
For the early risers.
Yeah, if you're not listening to it in the morning, that's okay, you can pretend. It's very cold, my eyes hurt. How are you all doing?
How's your voice? Is that all right?
I don't know, does it sound okay this time?
Your morning voice always sounds slightly different, doesn't it? I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I need a couple of coffees to get my rest of the day voice working properly.
I've been drinking coffee these days as well.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. That's what I need to do.
I hope I haven't led you down the wrong path.
I think you have, yeah.
in many ways, sort of.
But this isn't just our morning episode. This is our Valentine's Day episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose.
We have to be recording on Valentine's Day as well.
But by the time this goes out to our dear listeners, it probably will be a distant memory. Valentine's Day,
Belated? Yeah. Okay.
a belated Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we making it extra romantic or something? I don't.
I was out doing my Valentine duty the other day in a shop, and I was staggered by the number of other types of cards you can buy, like to your daughter, to your son, to your mum,
Really?
to your dad. Yeah, like Valentine's Day now has become not just to your sweetheart, your spouse or your better half or your betrothed, which seems natural, or a girlfriend or a boyfriend who you'd like to have, somebody you'd like to have as a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Now it's like
Unrequited love.
any family member of grandparents can get a Valentine's card, and I don't know. I think it's just another excuse to buy another card or more cards.
Saint Valentine would be appalled.
He would. He'd be turning in his grave, yeah.
You've got to think, for them to make cards that much, then someone has to be buying them for their sister.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody buys them, yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. That's what they say about bad films, isn't it?
Yeah, just don't
If you
watch
keep
it.
watching it, they'll keep making them, yeah.
Oh,
Forward.
but it's fun.
Forward. You like
Yeah,
WandaVision? Talk to me about it.
Well, it's been pretty good. Have either of you guys seen it?
No.
I've seen loads of adverts for WandaVision all over the place, and it's kind of doing my nutting. At first I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, I might watch that, and now it's just like, okay, I've had enough of these adverts.
Can't say I know anything about it. Enlighten us.
Well, it's a
Bring vision to us, yeah.
and Wanda.
Is it a superhero thing?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a TV show that Marvel have doing since the MCU has pittled down after Endgame. They've started doing some TV shows, and this is the first. It's about Wanda and Vision, believe it or not. Yeah, it's really good. It was pretty slow to start off with, but it's really building to some sort of climax. It's really good. I would recommend it, and I would have more to talk about if you guys have actually seen it.
So you're recommending it to us then?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty quirky.
See, I was going to watch it, but you kind of put me off.
Yeah, well, originally I put you off on purpose because it wasn't very good, but
Right.
I think it's kind of built on that foundation of not goodness.
Excellent.
You got to stick through to like the third episode at least, I think.
Okay, that's not too bad. At least it's not a whole season.
Although it's coming out weekly, which means, one episode can make a big difference,
Yes.
Yeah, it's got interesting. Move on, please.
Yeah. Should I clean up some leftovers from previous episodes?
Yeah, go for it.
Because we've got a list of things, listeners. We do have a list of little things we'd like to talk about at the very beginning of the show, each show, and they're not in any particular order today. So, well, I just wanted to say I listened back to our previous episode about when we played Fortnite. I do listen to our episodes rather than watch them on YouTube. Others maybe watching our gameplay of Fortnite, which I understand was very good. But I haven't looked at it yet. But listening to it, what struck me whilst listening to Fortnite gameplay was how impressive the soundtrack is, both in terms of special effects and music. I know we hate the dancing, we all agreed on that, didn't we? I just thought it's an area of the game assessment that we didn't cover, and I did think, listening back to it, when you're not distracted by the visuals, actually the audio is very impressive.
Well, we're talking like gunfire and cars.
Yeah, all the audio, but I did particularly like the music, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I hate the style of the music when it comes to the terms of dancing. But
So do you mean like the main menu music or like the?
Just in general, I think.
I didn't notice too much of it.
During the game, it was even more apparent of how much time they'd spent on the audio. I don't think it would reassess my rating or probably any of our scores on the game, but it's just something we didn't comment on, so I thought I would add a comment to it there. And then finally, a correction. We like corrections, don't we? When I was talking about what 3 words, I don't know how many more weeks I'm going to be mentioning this.
But you seem pretty keen on it, don't you?
What 3 words, everyone? Download your favourite app in your favourite app store. No, I misspoke, I think, because I said something about how many the grid size and giving off all these stats, and I made it sound like it was a complete XY grid, but it's not obviously an XY grid with 2 coordinates. It's a 3 coordinate grid, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh. So the figures that I used don't add up. But go back and listen to it and think, oh yeah, Andy's wrong there because he's suggesting that it's so many by so many. I forget now, 57,000 I think it was, grid by 57,000 by 57,000, whereas that doesn't apply because it's not a XY grid, it's a XYZ grid, I suppose. It's a 3. I know, I can't get my head around it. We need a technical mathematician to explain how they provide that 3rd coordinate. But it's not coordinates, is it? It's random 3 words.
But an XYZ grid would only make sense in mountains if you were... Yeah. Or maybe in a building, I suppose. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I'm not sure I do. Yeah. Anyway, but I noticed it on playback that I misspoke. So that's just a correction before anybody else does.
So it's even better than you first said, because it also coordinates the height as well.
Well, whether the 3rd reference is height, I'm not sure.
Which means about time.
Yeah. The 4th dimension,
yeah. Or alternate realities.
Yeah, which universe is it in?
Which dimension are we looking at?
Yeah. Very good. We did say there's only 40,000 words in the database, so does that mean there's only 40,000 alternate realities?
Sounds like science to me.
Yep, can't argue with it.
Okay, that's that. I don't think we need to go any further with that before we talk ourselves into more ridiculousness.
Okay, I'll bring this one up. We've got some Mandalorian news.
Ooh,
a lot of people were very happy with this news, but most people are quite sad. Recently, Gina Carano, she plays Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, the survivor from Alderaan, who's quite cool and kicks butt. That I actually previously complimented for being quite interesting.
Yeah,
she's an ex-rebel, isn't she?
Yeah, she's an ex-rebel from Rebel Alliance, and the actress got sacked from Disney.
I thought you were going to say she died or something.
She died.
Well, that's a relief, yeah.
Yeah,
that she's still with us.
Yes, she's still with us doing things, but she got sacked from Disney, so she would no longer be in anything to do with Mandalorian or Star Wars at all.
But why?
Following some social media posts or sharing things.
Oh.
That some are considering controversial. Yeah, so it's unfortunate, because I thought she was quite good.
A famous person saying something controversial on social media, I didn't think that was possible.
No, they get sacked as soon as it happens, so you never see it.
Never happens. Yeah.
So what was the nature of these messages?
Okay, well, the one that kind of kicked her over the bucket was basically comparing how the Jews in Nazi Germany were, through governmental propaganda, had their neighbours turned against them and were beaten in the streets and turned over to the Nazis by their own neighbours, and how there's obviously a lot of hatred through the propaganda towards the Jews prior to the Holocaust.
Right.
And she said how is this any different to hating someone based on their political views?
Okay.
So hating someone based on race versus hating someone based on their political views. And people flipped out, basically.
Yeah, I can see that's a bit controversial.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah. If you want to bring controversy, then mention the war and the Jews.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good, surefire way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume the point she was trying to make is that people hate too easy.
Yes. Exactly.
And I guess that kind of made her point for her.
Yeah.
Since she's now been fired for it.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The more backlash she gets, the more her points just get proven. Basically, that's what they're saying. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's a shame. I quite liked her character.
Yeah, I quite liked her character as well.
I didn't know much. I don't know much about her herself, but I quite liked her as well because she's an MMA fighter, isn't she, and stuff like that.
Yeah. She's
one of the four I mentioned who were on a real good rampage during the last but one episode, and you mentioned her, didn't you?
Yeah.
Very good.
I mean, she's been quite a big character throughout the entire series, I think, isn't she?
She's not the one who plays the part of the cop, is she? No. The sheriff or whatever she was,
Yes, she just become a sheriff. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, does she? Oh, that's that one. Oh, yeah. Slightly Oriental in appearance.
I suppose so.
Kind of.
I think you might be mixing up your characters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's move on to something else controversial. Ford. Sorry, Devon, you're leading.
No, yes, do that.
Well, something blew up in the news the other day. I don't know if it blew up per se, but we're a bit late to the party. But a Democratic lawmaker type person during
Senator,
thank you. That's probably something like the thing. During the 117th Congress, at the beginning they pray, and I got a little tweet here. I'll read the comment. The prayer to open the 117th Congress ended with an Amen and Our Woman.
Oh.
Amen is Latin for so be it. It's not a gendered word. Unfortunately, facts are irrelevant to progressives. Unbelievable.
Wow.
So I found that quite interesting, if not a bit offensive.
Well, yeah, like you say, Amen is a non-gendered word, and Our Woman means nothing, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
Something that's probably not so politically charged. In that same prayer, he was praying essentially to all gods, not just the Christian God, because he names a few different gods, which I found. I don't think that's gonna make anyone happy. Surely.
How does that make sense? Like, I assume it was praying to the Christian God and many other gods as well. In that, how would those gods require no other idols? So how does that make any sense? That you can't?
Yeah, in the name of trying to be inclusive, you're really excluding everybody. I would have thought no one is going to enjoy that.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, the Our Men and Our Woman thing seem to have got a lot more traction in the news.
That feels quite ridiculous, doesn't it? Yeah, because they forget that the word men or man is in woman as well. So it's inclusive of everybody, isn't it? But it doesn't mean that anyway. It's not talking about gender.
Yeah, this really doesn't make much sense.
No.
I can kind of understand people changing, policeman to police officer, no matter which gender you are, and things like that.
Yeah.
But changing something that isn't even actually to do with a man to Our Woman, I don't really understand that.
It's kind of like it's taking equality to the extreme. I mean, it tends to happen with feminism as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, feminism of the past has been great, but it feels like currently it's just weird. And it goes the other way too far. I don't know. Yeah, maybe we're getting too political now, but you know what I mean. you know what I mean. When it goes when someone takes a point too far because they're trying to make their point. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's danger in it, I think, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Ford.
Yeah. This was my most exciting bit of news. I've read an article the other day which is entitled "Electric Car Batteries with 5-minute Charging Times Produced."
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. I can tell you're excited. Batteries are capable of fully charging in 5 minutes have been produced in their factory for the first time, making a significant step towards electric cars becoming as fast to charge as filling up petrol or diesel vehicles. Electric cars are a vital part of action to tackle the climate crisis, but running out of charge during a journey is a worry for drivers. So basically, I won't read anymore, but that's quite exciting.
So I wondered about your opinion on electric cars when it comes to the batteries. They talk about throwing them away at the end. Well, obviously they only have a certain life. Getting rid of them that's bad for the environment, isn't it?
Yes.
Depends how they can recycle them, doesn't it? I'm sure they'll find ways of when car batteries become the main source of power for vehicle transport, then there'll be a way of producing them in such a way that they are reusable in some way, or used for
So you
component
think
parts.
this is definitely where the future is then?
Well, I think it's less polluting to the environment, I'm sure, than churning out fumes from the back of your exhaust pipe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is obviously less polluting, but with any production, there's always some kind of
A carbon footprint?
a
Yeah.
carbon footprint. Yeah, obviously there's only a certain amount of lithium in the world, and obviously you need lithium for batteries. But yeah, the other option is not having cars at all. So it's not, you can't really. Electric cars seems to be the best way to go forward at the moment.
Nah, get a horse. Get a horse.
I mean, I'm down. More expensive though.
It looks like they'll be using silicon rather than lithium
Oh,
in some
how's
way.
that gonna work?
I don't know.
Okay.
Li-ion batteries use graphite as one electrode into which lithium ions are pushed to store charge. Oh, so that sounds like lithium, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You had to ask.
But anyway, it's an exciting development. Hopefully, it will lead on.
How much charge would 5 minutes get you? Did it say?
I think they said over 100 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, delivering 100 miles of charge to a battery in 5 minutes.
Wow, that's quite good.
It is quite good. But we need more forecourts, don't we? BP has 18,020 forecourts, and they understand that 10 years from now, all these stations will be obsolete if they don't repurpose them for recharging batteries. Batteries are the new oil, apparently.
Wow.
So there we are. That's all I want to say about that. But yeah, it's a good step forward, I think.
Do you think a lot of these oil companies are going to have a lot of income differential when they move away from oil to electricity? Because obviously electricity is a lot cheaper than petrol and diesel.
I'd be surprised if they're not already looking that way. What do they call it? Renewables is definitely where any energy producer needs to be focusing their efforts. I think if we go into the fossil fuel industry, is got limited life expectancy, hasn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Plus, it's giving the human species limited life expectancy as well.
I mean,
there's only so much resource in the ground, and when it's being brought out of the ground and released into the atmosphere, it's limiting our futures. So
it is good to see development in battery technology. So that's good. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad you're glad. I would love to think that my next vehicle, if I should buy a new vehicle, because it's rare for me to buy anything new like that, would be an electric vehicle. I hope. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe these new batteries need to be post-production replaced into the existing powered electric vehicles, because it is very limiting if you've got to stop for half an hour or more, 40 minutes, whatever it is, to fully charge your car every say hour and a half. People aren't going to be that quick. The uptake is going to be limited, isn't it? If you're about town, that's fair enough, but if you want to drive cross country, then no, that's not going to work, is it?
No, not really. Wow, very good.
Okay,
thank you very much. Unless there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, then I guess we're on to the main segment.
Paps segment subject.
Right. So it's my turn, is it, to bring our subject?
It is.
I'll give you a little bit of background before I announce the title of what I wanted our conversation to be about. I was listening to one of my podcast providers, BBC Sounds. I listened to quite a few of their different podcasts, from film reviews and science programs and various other history stuff and what have you. And an advert for one came up called Teach Me a Lesson. It's a new podcast, and I didn't know the presenters, but I particularly was interested in it because their first episode was going to be entitled Are People Born Evil? My ears pricked up, so I decided to give it a listen. Predictably, I guess, they didn't really discuss it. I mean, it's quite a frivolous conversation, and yes, they wanted to make it humorous, so they wanted to lighten the burden of the thoughts. And we like to have a light-hearted conversations as well, don't we? But on such a subject, I don't know if you can do that justice, really, if you're just making jokes about it all the way through, virtually all the way through. So I don't know if you guys, I did mention this to you. Did you get a chance to listen to that episode or not?
No.
No. Okay, that's fine.
No, I
That's
did. I did. Yeah.
Did you? What was your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt like they didn't answer the question, maybe because they were too busy making teacher jokes.
Yeah.
Fancy making jokes at the expense of your content.
Wow.
Yeah, no, but I had a good time with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably, I guess I might sound as though I'm a bit more annoyed about it than you are.
Oh, you're annoyed.
I think what the main thing was, I'll continue with my introduction first, then I'll come to my main thing. What's also brought me to this idea of talking about this subject is the kind of the taste I've had in my mouth left to me by following Devon's recommendation of watching the Vikings series, and I'm almost there. I'm nearly at the end of season 5. Bear in mind, I stopped years ago at season 1, I think. So I've watched about 4 more seasons of Vikings, 4.5, and I do enjoy it. It's a great, well-produced, if you like, adventure drama, I suppose you could call it. But it's left me with this clear thing about how terrible human beings are.
Yes.
Aren't they awful? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
They're self-centered, self-serving, vicious, violent, or they were certainly in the 600s or whatever it was when Vikings roamed the earth. Was that around about the time? 700s?
I think so.
It's fascinating on other ways, and I love actually looking at it and Googling real facts. And much of the producers of that show have based a lot of it on historical facts, so that's quite interesting. And I guess that's what makes it more disturbing, that if they've gone to the effort of researching the show, then obviously some of the violence that's portrayed in it is probably accurate as well. We live in a much different world now, don't we? Thankfully.
In some parts of the world, yes.
Yes, true. Civil societies don't quite operate in the same way, but obviously there are parts of the world, like, for example, some of the things we saw. Another comment I'd make about it: some of the behaviour of the people that we saw demonstrated on the 6th of January at the Capitol building, and that was another point, in to be made. That how people can behave in certain circumstances. But so there's
may I ask what happened?
Oh,
we're not all American here. I'm sorry.
You don't watch the news, do you? Yeah.
Just for context, for the listener, of course.
Well, I speak this on the day after the impeachment trial of then President Donald Trump for his part in the supposed and proposed, and I think fairly well clear-cut case of his insurrection against the political centre of America, as in the Capitol building. Yeah, when lots of people raided it and attacked it, and 5-6 people lost their lives. Because of in the name of peaceful protest. So, anyway, that's another matter. I don't want to go that political. We've been very political, haven't we, in this episode? Yeah. But I wanted to highlight these elements of human behaviour that when you watch some of those scenes from the Capitol building, it's very upsetting to see how people can behave in such a way. So that kind of says, well, they did it in the Viking times, they could still do it today as well.
It's like and then there's vibes you get in Black Friday. All those Black Friday videos that you watch when they're in the supermarket and everyone's whacking each other, trying to grab like a TV or something.
Yes.
And it's it's like animalistic, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And then another drama that springs to mind, just because these are things that I've kind of been flipping between, is another series that's been remade, actually. There's 2 versions of it now. There's one over 10 years old, and then there's one that's just come released now. And the series title is Utopia. Now, it's not for the faint-hearted. Some of it is very upsetting to watch. Again, portraying people being horrible to people. So what it brings to me, actually, is this whole question. As I began this section by saying, are people born evil? Is when you look at our human behaviours, is there something? How do we define the word evil? First of all, is it just about behaviour, or is there something more to it than how we behave? And also the whole nature nurture argument that goes back to how people are born with this ability to, or
Inclination towards.
inclination. Thank you, Lord. Yeah, inclination towards evil. But when you describe what does evil mean, that's kind of where I'm coming at this whole subject from.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say maybe you should watch some different shows.
I know.
I hear WandaVision's quite fun.
Thank you, Ford.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lightening our conversation a bit. Yeah. Because if you immerse yourself too much into that, I know a lot of it's story and fiction, but there's something. The problem is the challenge of what it's portraying and how it's showing us a different side to human behaviour. There's also the challenge of why do we enjoy watching those sort of shows?
Yeah.
Is it appealing to my worst nature? That's another side to the conversation, I suppose.
I quite enjoyed something I wanted to talk about was in the podcast episode that you shared to us. They talked about they had a psychologist person on, and she gave an example where they did a test where they brought 60 odd people in, I think it was 60, and they gave them a button essentially and said at the other end of this, you can hear them but you can't see them. At the other end of this button is a taser, essentially, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to ask this person questions over the microphone. And every time they get something wrong, you tase them.
Yeah.
And then there's a dial there that says how many watts, and it goes all the way up to 400 watts or whatever.
Yeah, volts, I think it was, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You know, I'm an engineer, right?
Is it watts? Was it watts?
No, you're probably right. I don't know.
I'm sure they said volts. They may have been wrong if it's watts that are the thing that matters anyway.
No, I think watts kills people actually, so probably not. You do reel me now.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
Anyway, so this the tester person says, right, so every time they get a question wrong that you're asking them, you have to tase them. And as they go through the test, the voltage goes up.
Yeah.
And essentially, the people who were being sat down with this button, they would almost always go through with tasing this person. Perhaps do you want to take over?
Yeah, what they were wondering how many people would I don't know how many took part in the experiment, with the knowledge that they were harming somebody else for getting a question wrong. How many people would continue with the test? You know, would they, because they were being instructed to? Would they do what they're being asked to do, even though it involved harm to somebody else? It was all in their mind. It wasn't the people on the other side of the wall weren't actually being harmed, but they'd been instructed to sound like they were. Until at one point, when the voltage got so high that they just fell silent. So they were unconscious or dead. And but it was something like 30% of the people continued with the test even after the other participant had fell silent.
Yes,
so to their knowledge, you know, and it was really shocking.
Purely because they're being asked to by this professor chap.
Yeah,
you know,
somebody in a white coat, a person of authority, was giving them instruction, and they followed it. You know, no matter what. There was a very low percentage of people who refused or declined to do it. Yeah, and I can't remember the stats, but that was an interesting part of that show, wasn't it? Yeah, and it does illustrate, I think, what does it illustrate, Ford? Tell us.
Well, I was just thinking in terms of, I mean, they also mentioned in the show Nazis and how we as a society seem to look at the Nazi party as evil and every German in that place evil, maybe. But to be honest, if this study shows anything, is that if we were in that country at that time, we would probably kill Jews. You know, it's hard to realize actually we're not as moral as we think we are.
Yeah, I've seen that said a lot before. Like, if you were in Nazi Germany, then you would have been a Nazi type thing. Statistically, anyway.
It's really hard to rebel against the crowd, isn't it? It's another word for it. It's peer pressure, isn't it?
Almost no one will, you know.
Yeah. Can I ask something based on that study that you were talking about? Obviously, they thought that they were committing an act that we might consider evil, like electrocuting someone, but they actually weren't. But were they still evil? Is it the act that makes them evil or the perceived act?
Oh,
Because they didn't actually hurt anyone.
I think it was more about to get to the heart of the matter of the nature of the person that would commit such a thing, rather than the actual act that was happening.
But Devon's he's calling into question the definition of evil. Is it your intention that makes it evil?
Okay.
Or is it the actual act that makes it evil? Because the actual act didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
But the intention was still there, like he still tried to do it, or did it thinking that it was happening.
I guess that brings us, before we answer or think about that too closely, that brings me to the main point of what I wanted to, why I wanted to discuss it, and what wasn't discussed on the show that we're talking about, is what is evil?
Well, I feel like the humanistic definition, the worldly view, as it were, of evil is, does it hurt somebody?
Yeah.
But I feel like that, because of what Devon just said, actually, it sounds like it's a bit hypocritical, because it's like, if I'm doing it, I'm not evil. I know me. I can't be evil, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of blind to itself. If we try and define it ourselves and uphold it ourselves, then we're just no good at it.
I mean, isn't the word evil quite subjective in that case? And it depends on your perspective of it, doesn't it? Like some of the things that happened on the 6th of January, well, all of it was being done by people who thought that they were quite within their rights to do the things they were doing, but people lost their lives because of it.
Yeah, they thought they were standing up for righteousness and justice.
Yeah, exactly. They thought they were on the side of right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's their perception or their subjective view of it was justifying what they were doing. So there is no clear. This is the thing. This is the thing. Is it about behaviour, or is it about something more than just behaviour? I think is what I'm trying to lead us on to.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying about what we read and what we believe the Bible says about what, I don't know if the word evil actually appears in the Bible.
It does.
It does, yeah.
It does. Thank you. Thank you. You've done your homework.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just thought about it for a split second.
Yeah. I did just think when I said it, I thought, actually, I'm sure I can probably quite quickly find some scripture that references the word evil. But let's try and boil down a spiritual, if you like, definition, not a worldly definition, but a Christian spiritual definition of what the word evil means. Because we could talk about behaviour probably till the cows come home.
Yeah.
Go on.
So there's a interesting sort of anomaly in Bible translations, especially the King James Version, where a word gets defined evil. It's called hara.
Okay.
In Hebrew. That's just not me being weird. But it actually kind of means calamity, sort of a natural evil, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And yet that is caused by God. There's a verse that says, I cause peace, I cause evil. Of course, it's translated like that.
Yeah.
But in actuality, that kind of just means he causes judgment of sin, or something like he does it for a greater good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like an evil to me because it hurts me, kind of.
Right. Okay.
But obviously, that's just justice sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So evil appearing in the Bible doesn't always exactly mean what we think it means, is all I was just trying to say.
I mean, my question, is evil in the Bible, is ridiculous, because I've just remembered of the most famous prayer in the Bible, that deliver us from evil, you know, the Lord's Prayer. So there's clearly definition there for us.
Would you say that evil is different to sin?
Oh.
Because when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, so evil it's not something that God creates. It's something that, well, maybe he creates it in the absence of his good, like a shadow blocking the light. It's like his goodness therefore creates evil, because, you know, it just has to be that way. You can't have one without a shadow, you know? But then that just sounds like sin.
It's evil, I guess. Yeah, I think that probably is a true statement. I would believe that you can't. That I guess is what the true definition for me for evil is anything that would contradict God's will and purpose and for us in our lives. And that, I guess, is another expression of what sin means as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of the conclusion I came to, but I didn't know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, sin and evil are synonymous, I think. Devon's very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Is it just because it's too early, or is
Maybe.
it?
I'm actually falling asleep.
Yeah, you're still there. Hang on a minute. Let me just check. Is it still working?
Yeah. Obviously, when we're talking about this, well, when you brought this up for us to think about, I immediately thought about the nature that a person has.
Yes,
And
good
always
point.
kept going to a sinful nature.
Yeah.
Obviously, then but it's not technically called an evil nature; it's a sinful nature. And obviously, we put that.
Separation from God, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sin.
We
Sin separates us from God.
Yeah, and obviously we laid that nature down in the grave when we get baptized. But that doesn't mean that we do not sin ever again. It's just the nature. So I thought it may have been the same with sin, with evil. Sorry. Can we still be evil, even though obviously our nature isn't like that anymore?
No, I don't think. Yeah, it feels. We can't always trust our feelings, can we? But it feels like the world's perception is kind of overlapping with a Christian moral perception that sin is sin, but evil is like the worst sins. Yeah. Whereas really, I'm not so sure that's true. We know that to God, a sin is a sin is a sin. You know, as an old lady who I used to know once said, or repeatedly said, it's still a sin to steal a pin. So if you stole something, even as small as a pin, and nobody would even notice from a pot of pins where there might be hundreds of them, that sin is still a sin to God as much as, let's choose a evil world dictator from history and the crimes that they committed.
Mussolini.
Okay, I wasn't going to reference anybody, but we picture somebody immediately, don't we? Yeah. So, and that, from a worldly perception, is really challenging and impossible to get your head around. Really, yeah. How can it be the same? How can you equate those two examples?
Yeah.
But you can't equate them apart from that. To God, that's the importance that He places on righteousness.
Yeah.
I do agree with that, but I would also like to. I believe that all different sins do have different consequences. I mean, we call God the perfect judge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't think stealing a pin would give the same wrath as murdering a bunch of people. I feel like, yeah, that wouldn't take much of a judgment from God. It's just like every sin, no, you're out.
Well, if you look at the Old Testament laws in the Bible, there is a whole chapter after chapter after chapter of this. If you do this, then this is what happens. If you do this, then this is what happens. But what we have to remember is that those laws, although they're in the Bible, they were given by man's perception of things. I'm not saying that the scriptures aren't written by God, but I'm saying that they were man's laws interpreted by God's influence. So I don't know if the relativity between the crime and the punishment could be attributed to that. That's man's form of justice, if you like, written down by God. But his justice is quite different, I think. His justice comes in at the point of the end of our lives, isn't it? When we are brought before the judgment seat of Christ.
Yeah.
And we are judged for one thing and one thing only, whether we've committed our life to Christ or not. Oh, that's heavy, isn't it? Yeah. Because we all know that even some of those worst worldly dictators, if at the point of death they repented and gave their life to Christ, will be in heaven when we get there.
Yes. Yes. Yeah? And that's something that's very difficult to think about.
It is hard, and I my brain doesn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I can avoid it.
Yeah.
If we believe the gospel, if we believe what the Bible says about sin and repentance, for whatever evil behavior we've carried out, forgiveness is available.
I think the nature of
And
man
redemption.
is to look at actions, because we do not have the sight and
Mhm.
knowledge to look at the heart. We can
No.
try and figure out motives, and we can try and figure out what they
Very
actually
good.
feel, but we physically cannot see deep enough. So
Very good
actions
point,
mean a lot to humans. So
Mhm.
this action means that this should happen to them, whereas their heart
Yeah.
might be in a completely different place. I guess that's why. But with God, like, the heart means the most,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
a little bit
I think
difficult for us.
that nails it, really, doesn't it? I think you're quite right to say that. Yeah.
If we could
I
see
wonder-
deeper, maybe it might be a bit easier to understand the judgment that might be happening. But yeah,
There's man's justice and and God's justice. Yeah.
yeah.
Forward, what you say?
I was just going to shift the conversation slightly. I wonder what you guys thought about, from a Christian point of view,
Hmm.
how do we judge right? Because Devon might be familiar with this Plato stuff nonsense. There's a argument, a dilemma in one of the books that Devon's probably reading right now.
Yeah.
It's called the Eutharo dilemma. It talks about, is something right because God says it is, or does God say it's right because it is? Like, is right outside of God, or purely dictated by God, and therefore we could do weird things because purely God says so, you know?
What's the right answer? Do you know?
Devon?
Well,
Well, it's a dilemma. It's a choice
Exactly.
between two weird things.
I think I have a thought on that, but I
Oh,
don't know if
great.
Devon wants to add a thought.
go for it. I could say it, but
I think when God, whatever God says, immediately is true and right. Whatever, if He says it, then it's not He's saying what's right. If like this is a frivolous way, but He invented right. It was what He spoke. If He spoke it, if He defined it by words or whatever, then it's instantly right. If God appeared now to us in actual form, it would probably be in the form of Jesus, or and Jesus, and we're talking now at 10 to 9 in the morning,
Oof.
and said, and if He spoke that the sun's about to set, then guess what? The sun would be about to set. Don't ask me how that works, but because it's spoken by God, it happens. That's how. Now we're going to get into the whole creation thing. How did we get down this route? When the Bible talks about God said, His words are powerful, and what He said happens. So in defining right and wrong, whatever God said instantly becomes. But of course, we know He's only going to speak love, and He's only going to speak.
Right. So that could be a scary thing to think, oh, God says, and therefore it is. It's like, oh. And if your picture of God is angry, malicious, then you're going to be put out by that. But when we think God is good, like He is the essence of good,
exactly,
then this sort of dilemma sort of makes no sense, I guess, because you're saying, does right come from God, or does God say things because it's right? He is right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's a mind bender
when you put it like that.
Have we distracted away from our initial subject of are people born evil?
Well, we haven't talked about nature nurture.
No, we haven't
really at all, which is the whole premise of it.
Yeah, my feeling is that now this is hard to. Again, we've talked about some big things that are hard to accept and hard to understand, and I'm not pretending to fully understand it. But there is something innately separated from God. Although a baby child is the purest form of human being in terms of in the natural state, but there's still there's a spiritual disconnect from any human being until they make a commitment to say, yes, I want the God of the universe, God's spirit, God's sacrifice to apply to my life in the form of Jesus. Now, that's going to be controversial to people from other religions to hear, but that's what I'm speaking from my understanding of what's read in the Bible.
Well, if it's controversial, I don't know.
It fits right in, yeah. And you wouldn't expect me to say anything other than what the Bible teaches as a Christian. If this podcast was written, sort of produced by people of other faiths, they would have their perception as well. So for me, we are all born sinful. Does that mean we're born evil? Well, the evil acts could come from a sinful nature.
Yeah, it really does depend on how we're defining evil, doesn't it? There,
that's the thing I think isn't addressed from the very beginning of this conversation by that podcast episode. They completely wash over that whole idea of what evil actually is. They just believe it's really bad things.
Yeah.
Whatever you do that's bad, really, really, really bad. Not the stealing pins and pens, but the other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a quick definition of evil is the absence and opposite of good.
Mm-hmm.
So that, as you say, that doesn't mean all the really, really bad stuff. That just means anything that is not good. And when we started this conversation as well, in terms of are people born evil, you kind of think directly behavioural. It's like, oh no, people learn these bad behaviours when they are nurtured in that way. But then obviously, with using my own argument and what you just said as well, is like you've got to think about the sinful nature that everyone is born with due to the acts of Adam and Eve. The source, like it comes from somewhere. Everyone is born with a sinful nature. So I'm quite convinced that the evil is not inherently just behavioural, but it is a nature as well. It's part of a human until otherwise, I don't know, gotten rid of, I suppose.
An unrepented heart has the capacity to commit evil, and if a repented heart commits evil, because there's nothing actually physically stopping me or any other committed Christian from going out and shooting somebody, which is an evil act. I would have committed evil, but I would, in doing so, that I've separated myself from my decision to be a follower of Christ. Maybe that's the wrong thing. I don't know.
That's controversial.
Yeah, it is controversial. But I can no longer. I have committed evil, haven't I?
Yeah.
But there might be other things I've done that nobody notices that an act of evil. There's certainly an act of sin. Do you know what I mean? Just a thought or a word or a curse under my breath. Maybe I'm qualified. I'm wrong. We're exploring this as we're speaking, aren't we?
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers, but it's an interesting exploration. I mean, it's hard. It came to my mind, Devon, that you're about to have the wonderful joy of a new human life in your home. A new child coming, your first daughter, and when you look down in your arms and see that beautiful child, it's hard to think, have you been born evil?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't compute, does it? Our minds cannot, because of our perception of what that word means, and that child has no ability to pray a prayer and accept Jesus into their life to reconcile themselves to God and repent of anything they may have done or thought or said, which is what we would expect of an adult or even somebody,
But if you're using evil and sin as synonyms, it's the same thing, then just the absence of a relationship with God is evil. Just that separation that you're talking about is evil. So it is hard to think about.
Or can we define the word as evil as being? I mean, the author of evil was Lucifer, is still the enemy of Christ, the author of everything evil. So our separation from God is one thing until we have a repentant heart, but then our intentions, our thoughts, our words that can be evil, we can have evil thoughts, can't we? are sourced from something very separate from just separation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I didn't mean, if I came across that, I didn't mean to say that the separation from God is the be all and end all.
Yeah.
And if you get rid of that, then you're good to go. Because obviously there's a lot of struggles even when you do accept Jesus.
Spiritual warfare, such things.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And even just the flesh.
Yeah.
The flesh wants its own thing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But as we said, then that you no longer have the sinful nature; you have the holy nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the sinful act and the evil act that you have done. Doesn't mean that you are that. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Anyway, but...
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's lots you could say about this. We're running against the clock, aren't we? Any other thoughts, Ford?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to pop back to nature versus nurture. I'm very much a nurture person. I think people, if someone grows up to be a douchebag, it's probably because they're douchebag parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very pro that. But when we talk about the biblical view of things and the sin nature, I mean, you have to agree that there is something at least that's in us.
Yeah.
You know, not something that doesn't happen to us, but it is us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it before, didn't we, Ford? Off air.
Hang on, we have conversations off air.
That's crazy.
Well, what's the point?
Should start recording.
Why aren't you recording them? Yeah.
We're playing Rocket League at the time, so yeah. And my wife chimed in, and because she did her undergraduate and masters within psychology.
Yes.
And she's been on obviously the podcast before, but she.
Why isn't she here helping us with this struggle?
I think she's asleep. But she was saying how a lot of people are. Obviously, it's not the same as evil and sinful, but more like I suppose a lot of people are born without the prospect of ever being, I don't know, what we could consider successful. Not in terms of monetary, but being able to look after themselves. Some people just... There's a lot of biology and nature to do with people's behaviour still.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're kind of looking at extremes to try and prove that point. So obviously, yeah, it can be a mix of both nature and nurture. But... Yeah.
Which, in a roundabout way, surely connects to what actually happened at the fall of man. The physical, the chemical, everything that happened to the
general corruption.
Yes, something entered into the experience of humanity.
Yeah.
And it included physically. It had a physical impact.
Yeah.
And that continues to this day.
Yeah.
That's what we as Christians believe, isn't it? The original sin is what we call it. And
so it's hard to argue against nature then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would have been really helpful to have a theologian and maybe an atheist here to talk about the two different points.
We're kind of quite interesting, wouldn't it?
We're kind of sitting in the middle, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, we're not as highly educated as other people who have thought about this much more closely and deeply. We're just chewing the fat, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and we welcome any kind of input from anyone else anyway. So if anyone's listening and has any thoughts, then for sure, let us know.
You're all talking a load of rubbish, they'll say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I disagree completely. Well, disagree kind-heartedly.
Yeah. And explain.
Don't do it.
Why.
Don't do it in an evil way. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be evil, forehead.
I think it's obvious from our discussions that we're just struggling through this and working our way step by step in our thoughts as we go. And I asked the original question just as wow, that's an important question, and that's a thought-provoking one. And I wonder wonder why about that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my favourite types of conversation, anyway.
Yeah.
But no one really knows, so you're just trying to work it out together.
It would be quite boring for us to have all our points pre-prepared and pre-planned. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to change my mind on any of this. And this is this is it.
Yeah.
And then I do that. Then you do that. And then Ford does that. And then that's the end. That's the end of the conversation. That's not been a conversation, has it? I think we're all kind of on the same page, but we're chewing. Oh, really? Is that what you... That's how you prepare every episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, well, okay. But I'm not. I'm talking about it's good to be prepared. Well done, Ford. You're an example to us all. But I think what I'm saying is there's no room for manoeuvre there. There's no kind of, I hadn't thought of it that way. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all need to allow. Even some of our listeners who are complete atheists and can't comprehend, and when they hear us saying things like original sin, a child could be born separated, they won't acknowledge the existence of God. But do you know what I mean? They can't accept some of those stuff, and the idea of it's just as wrong to steal a pin as it is to commit genocide. That they're things that we struggle with as well.
Oh yeah, it's very understandable not being able to understand that because we don't really understand that.
Because our nurture has been such and such a way that we believe that crime and punishment are relative, Yeah. But to God, that whole crime and punishment, like I was talking about the Old Testament laws, is a structure that's produced for man's benefit, not for God's benefit. If I didn't explain it very well earlier. So I'm sure there's lots. We may come back to this, but there's lots we haven't said.
Yeah.
But do we need, for the sake of time, to wrap that up?
I think so, yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
You said we didn't have much to say on this topic.
I did, didn't I? I said that, didn't I, before we recorded? I thought, I don't know where this is going to go, and I don't know what I want to say. I just posing the question.
I guess you figured it out.
Because I've been watching the wrong kind of TV programs. Oh dear. It brought it to light that actually evil is perhaps behaviour, sin is perhaps the root cause.
Oh, we can't start talking again now, can we?
Okay. That's my final I'm summing up.
Oh good, okay, fair enough.
My closing argument. So
right.
Very good.
I don't know if I believe that or not.
Okay.
I have to look into it because
I'm not sure I do. But it's a thought. And if that is a conclusion I can come to, I'm not 100% there yet, then that would suggest to me that we are not born evil, but we are born separated from God because of the original sin. And to become fully connected to God, we need to acknowledge him and accept him into our lives through his son Jesus. That's in summary what I believe.
Right.
Good. Satisfying ending. I like it.
Anybody else?
That opens a lot of questions for me, but yeah, we can stop there. Nice. Well, thank you very much for bringing that interesting topic.
Okay. Did it die a little bit of a squib at the end there, didn't it? Yeah.
No, it's all right. I think that was a very good topic and it was very interesting. So thank you for bringing that.
Okay.
It gave us a lot of thought, and that was actually a good conversation, I think.
Well, actually, as well, just for everybody across our spectrum of listeners, we hadn't had much spiritual content for a few episodes now, so I thought it'd be nice to have a little.
So stop complaining.
Some controversy.
Hey, controversy or controversy?
Do people complain whenever we talk about something Christian,
don't think
spiritual?
Oh well.
Anyway, on with the show.
And now it's time for Random Chatting.
For this episode, we have been tasked with the very unfortunate reading of a Superman comic. It's called Sound of One Hand Clapping, apparently. I typed that into Google and it came up with an actual good-looking book. And I was like, this can't be it. Because Ford suggested it.
Hey,
So then I put
read
in
as well,
Sound of One Hand Clapping comic and it came up with Superman. So I thought, okay, great. Yeah. Any thoughts, anyone?
It comes up with a book because it's a reference.
Is it?
To the book? Yes.
Can we talk about the title first?
Yeah. Go for it.
I don't get it. I've read the comic.
Yeah. Okay.
And is that what you sent us? Is that the extent of it?
Yes.
We're not missing anything. It said part 1 and part 2.
We are missing things.
I searched in my mind. Where's the reference to one hand clapping?
All right.
Help us. Come on with the title.
So in the original book, the reference means we are one hand and the world is the other. We come together and produce a sound. we experience life.
That's two hands clapping.
Yeah, but we're only one hand.
Yeah, but that's still two hands clapping.
We're getting pounded against the world, and we are the result. And the Joker is a result, or he blames his predicament as a result of being bashed against the world, as it were.
Yeah.
Look, it's a comic book. Don't. What are you thinking?
I'm trying to find the words, really. I find that a bit abstractly nonsensical, really. That phrase that you read, that we are the. What was it again?
We are one hand. The world is the other. We come together and produce sound. We experience life.
You have to.
What do you mean?
I don't get that. Yes, thank you, Devon.
We live as we get hit against the world. It's like we only experience if it's pain. Essentially, it's kind of like that.
Well, that's not true. Mind you, going back to our previous conversation, it could be true. I think that's nonsensical, really.
It's philosophy.
Okay. I still don't see why that's a good name for a story in a comic.
Because the Joker is supposedly that's his experience.
He is a result. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
What I got from the story was that it's the first time the Joker and Superman, because they're not naturally in the same universe. Oh, they are, aren't they? Batman and Superman are the same universe, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got Gotham City and Metropolis. That's right, isn't it? So the story kind of is mostly a conversation between Batman and the Joker, and the Joker's taking the Mickey out of Superman. No, Superman and Joker. Sorry, yeah, Superman and Joker. And the Joker's taking the Mickey out of Superman, and then Superman shocks him by being super, and then it ends with a few sequences of Batman and Superman discussing. Is it like saying, "Oh, you allowed the Joker to come to us to make yourself worthwhile"? Is that what, or justify your existence? Is that the kind of point of it? I'm reading into it more than it is there.
It's just so fun, isn't it?
But if it's so fun, it failed. It's so trash, bro. It's so boring and just against all the characters. It doesn't make any sense. Like the Joker in this comic is just like I don't know anything. Please don't hurt me. Oh no, I'm so trash. And then Superman's like, I'm not really super. I kill people. It's like, okay, great. So it's like everyone's just. And then Superman calls the Joker boring.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard such nonsense? Superman calls the Joker boring. What? What is this?
Hot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
Look,
it doesn't make any sense.
It's because you've only seen the films.
Yeah, but
Superman isn't as one-dimensional in the comics as he is in the films, and the Joker is just kind of bland because he just blows stuff up and acts crazy. That's all he does.
I mean, Superman seems quite one-dimensional still in this comic.
I don't know that I agree with that, though, Devon. I think that there's something about this interpretation of Superman that was a bit uneasy for me to read. I got the impression he was like something going on that he wasn't expressing. I don't know, maybe my imagination. But there was a little bit something sinister about him.
He's willing to do what's right, and he'll do anything to put that. Like he will kill, like Devon said, and he has in the comics before.
Okay.
The fact that he's a super goody two shoes in the films is
because he doesn't kill in the films and the TV show.
Yeah, my argument is that it's not like he doesn't kill, so it's boring. My argument is that he just goes, whatever's right, I'm gonna do, and that's still in his comic. Yes, it doesn't matter.
That's hard. It's hard to do what's right. That's the point.
What? Yeah, but it's boring, dude. There's no character flaws. There's no character development. It's just whatever's right, I'm doing, and I can do whatever I want whenever I want. So therefore, it's boring.
Can't the interest factor come from the fact that his struggle with always doing right? Is that what you're saying, Ford?
Yeah, I guess so.
Does he see a struggle? Do we not see a struggle, Ford?
Well, you probably would. In other comics,
I didn't see in this comic. He goes and grabs all the bombs before the comic even starts, and then the rest of it is just him just going, "Oh, I'm so good. I've got the bombs. You're trash. I could kill you. Whatever. I'm going to do what's right. Goodbye."
But this wasn't meant to be an action-packed one. It's 2 issues of the Joker sort of dismantling this Superman's concept and vice versa. They're backing and forthing, and I thought you'd find the character study interesting.
I found it. I did enjoy it on a level. I think I enjoyed it more on the level of reading a comic again. That's something I had not done for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to read comics when I was little, but the experience of I wasn't sure I'd cope with it very well. Following a story from picture to picture to picture and knowing which speech bubble to read first it worked. I could do it and managed it, and I thought, sometimes in some comics I've read many years ago, I'd sometimes struggle with that. I didn't. This isn't making sense because I'd read the bubbles in the wrong order or something.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But in this one, it was particularly easy to do, easy to follow. But I did feel there was something more going on underneath it than what I was actually seeing, and I don't know enough about it to pinpoint what that was. So maybe I'm not as down on it as Devon is, but yeah, I was glad it was short.
Wow, a good part of it. Yeah, it's short.
It's what's it? Damning with faint praise. is a term that comes to mind.
Oh dear.
I'm sorry. Does it sound like we're a bit harsh?
Maybe I should have picked a more action-packed comic.
No, I don't care if it's action-packed, but you take a really good character like the Joker and just make him dumb.
He is dumb.
What?
This is early on.
The
in
Joker's
the life.
a great character, and then they just go like, okay, so now he's just trash.
Is it? He becomes a great character.
All right, I didn't want to go here, but okay. So this is just after the New 52. Essentially, there's a multiverse-ending event, and it basically reboots the universe. Essentially.
Oh right. Oh.
So it comes back, and they've all come back a bit more. Well, they're new and dumb. To be fair, no one likes the New 52, but there you go. Yeah. So that's why everyone seems new. Superman doesn't know Joker very well.
Oh, I see.
And vice versa. And
yeah. He was taking the mickey out of his costume and things, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion about fashion and what have you.
Also, since when can Superman see radio frequencies?
He can do anything he wants.
He does say that, doesn't he? You'd be surprised at what I can do.
He can rebuild the Great Wall of China with his eyes.
Okay, yeah. He's boring. He's dumb. He's trash. I hate it.
Can I just? This is kind of bigger picture Superman universe. I thought he gains his powers because he comes from a planet with a lower gravity.
There's a bit of that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you don't get laser eyes by living on a planet with a.
It's all about our sun. Our sun gives him powers.
Oh.
If I remember my Smallville.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Did you like Smallville, Devon?
Well, yeah, I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because he
okay.
because he wasn't perfect then. He did struggle.
Well, do you mean because of his powers or because of his morality?
Yeah, he was like learning how to use his powers and things like that. Like he hadn't mastered everything in the entire universe.
Look, all right, okay. I'm gonna lay this down. There are villains he goes against who are more powerful than him. He's not all powerful.
Wait, but how? Like, what's more powerful than Superman? You said that he can do anything.
Literally. There's one comic where he shoots out little versions of himself out of his eyes.
What, Superman does that?
Yeah, Superman can shoot little versions of himself.
So he can literally do anything.
It's weird. Look, all right. Different writers have done different things with him throughout the years. You just have to sort of go with whatever the current writer's doing.
Yeah, but you can still say the writing's trash.
Well, yeah, I mean, little version of himself, that's just weird. But literally, okay, his vulnerability isn't just kryptonite. He's vulnerable to magic, and he does go against magical foes. And there are creatures out there that are more stronger than he is and stuff.
Yeah, but he can turn back time and just go back to when the creature was born and kill the born creature.
Yeah, I think that's
dumb.
Exactly,
that was a dumb mistake. The makers of the first Superman film really kind of shot themselves in the foot over that, didn't they? Reversing the gravity of the rotation of the Earth will return will reverse time as well. Yeah.
It's just I just dislike Superman. And then the only good thing about the DC universe for me, or the best thing, is the Joker. And then in that comic, you just kind of ruin the Joker. So you kind of got the worst comic possible for me. I think. It was so trash.
Oh,
maybe you're beyond redemption. I don't know.
Maybe.
While we're talking superheroes,
Oh yeah.
I have watched. Did I tell you this? I don't know if I've mentioned it. I have finished watching all of The Boys.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No, that's a deconstruction of the superhero genre, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you mean by the phrase deconstruction? You mean taking apart, pulling to pieces of?
Yeah, it sort of generally means I'm taking this idea, this stereotype,
and changing it.
I'm just going to rip it apart and make it
different.
Yeah. Anti that.
Thinking of Superman, you've got the character called Homelander in The Boys, haven't you? Who seems to be invincible, doesn't he? He seems to be, but he's massively flawed character. Do you like that kind of character, Devon?
Well, it's something that doesn't make them perfect.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with you being like really, really powerful, but just don't be perfect in your morality. Like the Hulk has got unlimited power because the more angry he gets, the more powerful he gets. But his flaw is in that he's very angry. He just breaks everything, and he can't control it.
Why are you so against anybody that sets a high?
Because it's boring, isn't it?
But,
there's no struggle. There's no character development. There's nothing to base a story off apart from there's a bad guy. I've killed him, or he's in jail again.
Struggle just doesn't purely come from morality, though.
No, exactly, it doesn't. But you have to have either bad morality or bad ability. You can't have amazing ability and amazing morality. That's just boring.
Does Superman experience struggle in his whole? Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hard time of it. You'd probably like the comic, the Injustice comics, where Superman turns evil, kind of. It becomes a dictator because he's fed up with the Earth messing around. And he's just like, right, I'm just going to impose my law. Mm-hmm. You'd probably enjoy that. That's good.
I mean, that sounds like at least some kind of character development. So that'd be nice.
Yeah. But again, that's a deconstruction of the Superman idea.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with high morality and what do you call it, where you indulge your desire to be powerful in the real world.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think it's trash. It's just boring to read and watch. When I watch, let's take a look about Vikings. We talked about Vikings before. When I watch Vikings, my favorite character in that is Fitzurk because he's got so many struggles and his character arc is so amazing.
That's the younger, one of the younger sons.
Sons of Ragnar, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like the slimmer one with the. Yeah.
He's just in where I'm up to. He's just gone off. He was sent by his brother Ivo to go to another tribe and try and recruit them, and they turn on him and put him in a hot oven or something. Yeah, that's where I'm up to.
The struggle that he has with himself and with his brother Ivar and his other brothers as well just makes him so interesting, and it makes me connect with him more and be able to think, oh, I'm invested in his character now. I can't get invested in Superman because he's just flipping boring. Nothing happens to him.
All right. What do you guys think about the comic book genre?
That's what we're here to talk about. Oh, sorry. Go on. Yeah, before we get to talk about the comic, the
art style was amazing. I love it. It's so easy to read. Apart from the font could be better, I think.
Why? That's a good point. Why are all
comic
book
hard to read?
Are all comic book fonts that?
Is it Comic Sans?
All capitals.
Yes, they're all capitals normally. Yeah.
It was quite small.
I don't really mind the caps, but the font made it a little bit harder to read. But the art style itself, I really liked.
Yeah, graphically it was impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the only thing about the comic that I liked, and it's short.
Yeah, Yeah, because neither of you read comics adult, so
No.
why? I was wondering.
I felt like they're a bit cringe for the most part.
I mean-
like in this comic, they stand there and talk like a massive monologue just to try and seem cool type thing. It's just a bit cringy.
I mean, that is a bit abnormal. I mean, maybe not the just to look cool stuff, but just standing around for the whole 2 issues talking, that's a bit abnormal.
Okay.
Yeah.
There wasn't any bang, pow, whop. Was there? There's no zigzaggy bubbles of expressive sound words.
Yeah, I don't think you'll see any of that these days, but
That's a shame.
I did used to in my day.
yeah.
I mean, you've got this kind of superhero comic, and then you've got like the comics I would read, Beano and Dandy, where it'd be like a children's newspaper with lots of different ongoing soap opera style stories of different characters, So I don't know what modern day comic book. I mean, when you buy a comic, are you buying a Marvel or a DC, and then it's only got one character through that whole book, one story, or are you buying a whole bunch of? And do you buy them physically, Ford, or do you buy them virtually online and read them on a screen? What do you do?
I tend to have a lot more physical, and what I do is buy a run, like in total. Okay, so what we just read was 2 issues of a singular story. It was kind of isolated in its framing device, but whatever. But sometimes there'll be an event like Avengers Disassembled, where there's a ton of issues, but that's not funny.
Avengers Disassembled.
Yeah. So it's a story where the Avengers get torn apart essentially.
Okay.
But that's like a ton of issues. But I buy it when it's all in one book.
Right.
So
in the form of a book. Okay.
Yeah. So you'd say that was a graphic novel. You'd call that. Yeah. So that's how I tend to do it.
And can you still walk into newsagents and pick a comic off the bookshelf?
Yeah, certainly not. No, but there's a few comic book stores about. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty good.
Well, we said we talk about literature on this show, so it's good that we're having these conversations.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I think if I was to try and pick a comic book for Devon, I'd say I'd go Valiant. It's Marvel, DC, and you got Valiant. Valiant,
heard that.
They tend to do more dodgy stuff.
For somebody who loves the Vikings, it's perfect. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's that dodgy. It's not like rude, probably, but you know what I mean.
It doesn't have to be dodgy. It just has to be interesting. It just has to have some kind of story to it. It'd be quite nice.
Yeah, so there you go. There are other makes of comic books. It's not just Marvel and DC, is what I was trying to say. But they are the more cheesy type, which Devon probably wouldn't go along with.
Okay.
So, just because your superior knowledge on this subject, I just referenced the Boys TV show. Does that fit in anywhere else? Is it a standalone?
It is a comic. I don't know who made it. It sounds like something that Valiant would do, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I
haven't actually watched the show, so I don't know.
Oh, haven't you? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Oh, wow. Neither of you have watched The Boys?
No.
I think it was your big sister that recommended it to me.
Yeah, I'm tempted to. I'm a bit nervous about it because it's a deconstruction of the superhero genre. I'm a bit like, do I want that in my life? Probably not.
It is quite
graphic,
unnerving. Yeah, unnerving.
Okay. Yeah, so it does seem like something Devon would like, but
Devon would like it. I mean, the opening 5 minutes. If you watch that, you'll know whether you're going to enjoy the rest of it or not.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
We must move on. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. Do you want to ask us for the ratings?
Yes.
How many cliched stereotypes out of 10 would you give it?
Me first or not? Okay, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. The only points it gets is based on the art style.
Okay.
Or else it would be a 0.
0?
Yeah.
Wow, that's harsh.
It was. I really didn't like it, apart from the art style.
We can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a worse
I'm-
score than Fortnite. Sorry,
Oof.
Oh my word!
I gave
didn't
Fortnite a
expect
4, I think.
that. I'm going to be less harsh. I actually, I think there's more to it than what I first saw, and maybe I'm giving it credit where it's not due. But I'm going to go 5.5. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all right, isn't it?
But I loved the way it looked. Yeah.
Would
I'll give it a 6.5.
that's
Okay.
lower than I thought, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it from a character study point of view. I guess, yeah, there you
Nice,
go.
excellent.
I already said everything I was wanting to say, so that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let us move on.
It's homework time and goodbye.
For our next episode, we have discussed, and we will be watching a film called Truman Show.
Yeah.
Is it The Truman Show?
I don't know. It's written down as Truman Show. I always thought it was but
I think it's the Truman Show. Yeah.
yeah.
I've never seen this, and I just realised it's got Jim Carrey in it, so I'm a bit nervous, to be honest. I'm not a fan. But
I
I mean, at least you know what you're going to get.
We don't have. There isn't many fans. This is different, Jim Carrey.
Oh,
I think you'll see a different side. There's no funny faces and things like that, and stupid behavioural
goofiness.
I enjoyed it last time I watched it, which was many years ago. So I'm glad it's on the list, and I am quite looking forward to seeing it again. Yeah,
nice.
it's available where?
I don't know.
Oh, sorry, it's available on Netflix.
Nice.
I believe it was also a recommendation from one of our listeners, so it's about time we got round to it, to be fair.
We're gradually ticking through them. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, listener.
Excellent. So if you want to listen along, then or watch along, then that would be great. And then you can obviously give us your opinion on the Truman Show or anything else we talked about today, and that would be amazing. Especially,
But be kind.
be kind. If you disagree with any of our points, then feel free to leave a comment, or if you agree. But try and explain why, and then we can have like a little conversation. It might be quite nice, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can comment underneath the video if you're on YouTube, or obviously on a lot of podcast platforms as well. You can also message us on Facebook and on Twitter at Theory of Anything. That's TING at the end. And obviously we've got email as well if you want to be a little bit more anonymous. And our email address is underneath the description as well. I can't bother to read it. And I think that's all.
I'll just say we also been added to another new podcast platform recently as well, called Bullhorn. If anybody's using the Bullhorn platform, we're on there as well now. So I've never heard of it myself, but there we are.
I think I've heard the name before. Nice.
Yeah, that makes it 11 places you can listen to it.
Wowie. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Do you want to say the thing?
Oh, right, yeah. I think I will then, won't we? Yeah. So until we meet around the microphone again next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.